matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA096.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
And we are here live. Taylor, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm kind of exhausted being here. I'm in Dallas right now, and
Yeah.
it is warming me out. It's funny. Somebody listened to the podcast like a few weeks ago and was like, "Bar sounds like depressed or not really himself." And I was like, "I don't know. I was feeling pretty good." And like this time, I think I kind of am depressed and not feeling like myself. So this
Ooh.
time, if you interpret it, it is accurate.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it is
I
what
hope
it
you feel
is.
better. Hope you feel better soon.
Um, yeah, me too. Yeah, I'll head home tomorrow and all things will be on the bright side, I think. So anyways, you guys doing good. I saw that you took in some snake time.
I did. We went to a party. Wait, let me introduce us first.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Doomed to Fail. We're the podcast that does history's most notorious disasters and epic failures twice a week, every week. I'm Taylor, joined by Fars, who's in Dallas.
I'm in Fars. Wait, I'm in Fars
In Dallas.
in Dallas. Yes.
And I'm Taylor in the high desert. And yes, we went to a birthday party that was snake themed, and it was a delight. And the local snake lady, High Desert Danny, brought some snakes, and the kids got to play with them, and a tortoise that she rescued from like a bad tortoise rescue place that used to be here, and it was very cute and fun.
She sounds kind of awesome.
She's so cool. It's insane.
Does
Yeah.
she have a snake tattoo on the side of her head?
Yeah, she has snake tattoos everywhere. And then, yeah, and she is a person that you can call and she will come to your house within like 20 minutes and get rid of a rattlesnake for you.
So
And
cool.
she's done that for us several times and she's very nice. And Florence got a t-shirt with her picture on it. It's really cute. So,
You
yeah,
you got to maintain that relationship so that when she gets her own show on the Animal Channel, you can be like a guest.
it'd be fun. She was on Daniel Tosh's podcast recently.
No way.
Mm,
That's very
which is
cool.
good. Yeah.
Sweet. So I think today I go first,
Yes, I think so.
and I kind of whiffed one episode, I guess that was 2 weeks ago. And so we're gonna continue our little saga on the PayPal Mafia, and this is gonna be the final episode, and it's kind of a fun one actually. And I actually left quite a bit of time for banter around this because I think that Taylor, you're gonna have some opinions.
Great.
So
Can't wait.
part three is going to go into some of the stuff that the folks in the PayPal Mafia have gotten themselves involved in, given their billions of dollars, and
Hmm.
how that's kind of fun and interesting. And well, fun is subjective, but definitely interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so yeah, we're going to go ahead and continue on that side of things. And so we're going to start with probably the number one most unusual and interesting thing that somebody from the PayPal Mafia did, which also is the number one thing I would focus on too, and why I would want to be incredibly rich is to exact revenge, which is a driving motivator for me in life. So,
I know what
um,
I would do if I had a lot of money.
buy snakes or create a snake sanctuary.
No, I would do two things. I would build a library in every fucking town in America, and it would be called the Taylor Pinero Library. And two, I would adopt every single goddamn highway in America. Every
What is it?
highway.
What does adopting a highway even mean?
I used to think that it meant you actually had to clean it, but it just means that you donate money to the highway to be clean, get cleaned, you know. And people go and like pick up trash.
That's what you would do. You'd adopt a highway.
All of the highways. Yeah,
All right. All right. Well, you're better than I am. I would use
I know.
my billions for exacting revenge
I don't
on
really
people
have
who've
anyone.
wronged me.
I guess also you have to have someone. If you're on that path, you're gonna find someone who you want revenge against. Because I can't think of anyone that I really want to revenge right now. But like, if I were a billionaire, there's a chance that like
Oh
that would have
yeah.
happened. You know,
Yeah,
continue.
if you're
You know what I mean?
self-made, yeah, if you're a self-made billionaire, there's going to be a lot of people you want exact revenge on. Um, so we're going to start with the most well-known, I would say, case that involves Peter Thiel. and his incredible decade-long play to exact revenge on a media outlet that was known as Gawker. Do you know this
Oh,
story?
no, but I remember Gawker. I mean, I must know part of the story because I remember Gawker.
Okay, I think
Does
it's
it
gonna
involve
come to
Hulk
you.
Hogan?
Damn it, Taylor, you're ruining the story.
Well, you asked if I remembered.
It's true. It's true. It's my fault.
Continue.
You're on my revenge list.
Oh,
Um,
okay, so that's how I get on it. Fine. Well, I'm going to adopt all the highways, all the libraries, and exact revenge on you. And that's it.
yes, yes.
Three things.
Um, so Gawker was founded in 2002 by a journalist named Nick Denton. It started out in New York City and mostly just published salacious content that was very industry specific around media and the journalism industry.
Hmm.
As it expanded onto the internet, its content engine also expanded to include celebrity news. And they also covered political scandals and basically anything salacious about anyone of note is what they would basically do. Is basically like a gossip rag. That's basically how I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
describe it. So this obviously helped it grow from the with the public at large because it just became like a very people just want to know about the inside details of famous and rich people, but it also became like a huge source of like consternation for just the people that they covered. They were not considered ethical journalists and were like almost eager to divulge private details of public figures'
Hmm.
lives. So this,
And
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. You could like call them and be like, I'm at the restaurant and The Rock is here. And they'd come.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
TMZ-ish is
Yeah,
their
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
style. Yeah.
Stupid. Yeah, exactly.
So their downfall really began in 2007. In 2007, they aimed their focus at Peter Thiel, who at this point was already an established VC through his founders fund. He was already a multi-billionaire, and they published an article. And the name of this article was, quote, Peter Thiel is totally gay people, end quote.
Hmm.
So I read the article. It's accessible on the Gawker Media Archives, and I'll just say that I thought it was very, very stupid. I actually had originally asked ChatGPT to summarize what the article was about before I read it, and
Hmm.
ChatGPT said it's a generic commentary on Silicon Valley funding efforts with a statement about Peter Thiel being gay. So I was like, that seems a little bit like a misinterpretation. It seems too light on the gay thing and too heavy on
Hmm.
Silicon Valley thing, given the title. So I actually went and found the article itself and read it. It's actually really, really short. And I don't agree with ChatGPT's interpretation of it. They literally just wanted to out Peter Thiel as gay. And
Hmm.
then they wanted to kind of add the wrapper around it by saying VC capital, venture capital only funds straight founders because they're homophobic, which is why Peter Thiel's in the closet and he should come out of the closet so that everybody knows that it's okay to fund gay founders. That was kind of like the gist of it. So my take on that was first off, even if it's true, why out him like that? Especially given the fact that like the sources were like some guy who is anonymous and some you know what I mean? Like it was just it was a shitty way to do it, first and foremost. Secondly, this is San Francisco they're talking about, the most famously gay-friendly city in the world. I don't know how much prejudice there was against gay founders. Like it seems that for the most part, like these people are just worried about making money. Like I don't know if that
I
was like
mean,
their primary issue.
um, I think, hold on, I'm sorry. I think it's a little bit of, yes, I agree with you that like they just want to make money, so who cares? But also like the amount of VC capital that goes to like women-founded companies is like 2%, you know? So like this, it was like straight Jews helping straight Jews, just like by association.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that could be a discussion around like sexism, but
Well,
like
yeah, but that's what I mean about like, probably the reason that they just like didn't have a lot of gay people is that like there just weren't a lot of gay people around. They are like, yes, they were in San Francisco, but not in their like
in their circles, you mean?
in their circles. Yeah.
So I can see your perspective on that, but they also went out of their way to publicly out other people. They actually outed the married CFO of Condé Nast around this
Oh,
time as
Gawker was
well.
doing this?
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
like this
Gawker
was
was
like
shitty. That's so yeah, you're totally right.
again, like sure, make your point around like misogyny or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but the article wasn't about that. The article just wanted to out someone very publicly because they knew they would get clicks.
Yeah.
And their behavior kind of showed that because again, they outed a lot of other people besides just Peter Thiel. They just happened to do it against the one guy who has insane amounts of money and
Hmm.
has a very long tail view of like vendettas.
Hmm.
That was like the only distinction.
Yeah.
But let's pivot real quick to Hulk Hogan, which is a weird hard shift, but you kind of set this
What a
up.
fall from grace.
Dude, I used to love Hulk Hogan. When I was a
Everyone
kid,
did. Oh
oh
my
my God.
God. I
When
know.
when he came out as like bad during the NWO years, I was just like, how did
Mm,
Hulk don't do this? Go back. Remember
no. You're
he had part of
breaking my heart.
his beard was like black or something, and then he had
Yeah.
like the mustache was yellow. Oh,
Oh
yeah.
God, that's
But anyways, so on the Hulk Hogan front, so it's going to also provide some background context on how Peter Thiel's revenge kind of dovetails into Hulk Hogan's life. So in 2006, Hulk Hogan was filmed having it was he had filmed he was filmed on a sex tape with a woman named Heather Clem.
mhm.
Heather was married to a guy whose legal name literally is Bubba the Love Sponge. It's like the
Um,
most
did his mom
Florida
name him
story.
that? Just kidding.
No,
I'm just
he was
kidding.
he was he was a radio personality. I forget what his name was. I think it was like Todd Clem or something, and then he changed it to this. So apparently, again, this is all happening in Florida, so that helps the context. All three were friends, and this was around the time that Hogan's marriage to Linda Bolio of 24 years was coming to an end. So it was like, from what I read from like his accounts of it, he was in like a really fucked up headspace. His kid had literally just killed his like best friend in like a car accident. Like he
Oh
was
yeah,
going
yeah. I forgot his
through,
kid had that like drunk driving thing.
yeah, he was
Yeah.
going through apparently like a lot at this point. Which like
Hmm.
also I remember hearing that was like dude, like can you imagine like you literally kind of invented like an industry around like wrestling as like an art form, and
Hmm.
you worked so hard to make all this money, and then you just had this dipshit kid and fucking like it's just like God, that'd be so
Literally
depressing.
always. There's always some like idiot kid. That's the thing. That's the thing with dynasties. You can't have one because kids are stupid.
Yeah,
You're
they're
gonna have a
stupid.
dumb one in there, and you can't do things based on like your family lines because people be stupid.
Yeah, goes to show that like just always try to make people create their own world and don't give them a world because they'll fuck it up somehow.
Or yeah. Anyway.
So anyway, he's going through this divorce with Linda again, his wife of 24 years, and she'd apparently already moved out. They were already in the middle of like basically getting a divorce, but she hadn't actually filed yet. She wouldn't file until 2007. So what we're talking about here happened in 2006.
Hmm.
Um, Heather, and so this was like before Peter Thiel was even outed. So like just for context, timing
Hmm.
wise. So I wrote down that Heather and Bubba were typical Florida single swingers because it just fit. You just look at the pictures and you're like, yep, exactly what a swinger in Florida looks like. That is it. And they had proposed that Hogan and Heather, the wife, have sex with Bubba sort of recording, but not like nobody really knew that. So according to Hogan, again, he didn't know that he was being recorded, but either way, a recording came into the possession of Bubba of Heather and Hogan having sex. It's worth noting that the recording was made in Bubba and Heather's house, and so it looks like he had like cameras planted around his bedroom, like to
Hmm.
record. And
Hmm.
so it's feasible that Hogan actually didn't know he was being recorded. But that's
Totally.
how we ended up with the recording. So ultimately, Bubba ended up burning a CD that he literally titled Hogan on it. It was a DVD, and he kind of tucked it away. Some way, somehow, this recording came into the possession of a Gawker editor and writer named A.J. Dolario, who on October 4th of 2012, 6 years after this event happened, published the tape on Gawker's site. So Hogan
That's
was
terrible.
obvious. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Hogan was obviously very, very upset about this, and he sent Gawker a cease and desist order to remove the video, which was refused by Nick Denton, the founder. In a later tape deposition, this is so bad. This actually came out in court. This is really, really gross. So in a later tape deposition of the journalist, that AJ guy I mentioned earlier, who had
Hmm.
published the video and written the article around it, he was recorded during his deposition saying that he would only find a celebrity sex tape not newsworthy if the subject was a child under 4 years old.
Ew,
Yeah,
gross. Those pieces of shit.
yeah. So
Yeah.
we're going to get a little into like legal nuances here, but it's kind of simple and kind of basic. So we'll just hang with me on this. The starting point is the distinction between federal and state court jurisdiction. So the federal court system was has to kind of here and decide cases that have to do with federal law. State courts have to do with state law. That's basically the gist of it. So here's the thing: Hulk Hogan isn't a real person; it's a character.
Right.
So the man who plays Hulk Hogan, whose persona is Hulk Hogan, is a man named Terry Bollea. Originally, Hogan filed suit in federal court under copyright infringement, which is a federal case, because they heavily advertised the video as being of Hulk Hogan. Because we're like, really, like, if you're Gawker and you're like doing this for SEO purposes, who's looking up Terry Bollea? Nobody is. Hulk Hogan is the
Hmm.
draw, right? So the question of how successfully this can be turned on the fact, basically, how successful this cease and desist in the suit could have been was basically turning on the fact of whether Hogan himself had basically created this persona and held this persona out there as being his true self, in which case it would be considered fair play. If you recall, he had a show called Hogan Knows Best.
Hmm.
His
Like a reality show of this family.
Yeah, like anything you've ever seen of Terry Bollea, I think is just Hulk Hogan, right? Like he's just flexing his muscles, ripping his shirt off, and like the persona and the character, despite the fact that they're like copyrighted and IP protected items, like it's just like that's who you are.
Yeah.
You are like nobody knows who Terry is. We all know Hulk. So my analogy to this is basically like if you look at like what is acceptable with an IP law to do with somebody that's a public individual, is look at any presidential election we've ever had in this country where you have just random people hawking merchandise that has a candidate's name and image and likeness or
Right.
whatever on there. Those people aren't asking for permission for those things because they don't have to. It's considered fair use. Like you're too public of a person to own the right to your name, basically, is what it essentially amounts to. So basically, that suit in federal court went nowhere because the court was like, "Hey, you're too public. This is not a copyright infringement. Like, whatever. We're not holding in your favor." So he ends up deciding to file suit against Gawker in his home state, and that would be Florida. And the first course of action was an injunction by the judge to immediately remove the video article and comments that Gawker had published. And to their credit, they did remove the video. They left a comment in the article up, and they also redirected site visitors to another website that also contained that video. And their argument was that this was their First Amendment right, and they don't have to go any further than that. So eventually, the case goes to trial, and the question of whether this infringement into someone's private life for public consumption arose to whether it was newsworthy or not. And in this
Hmm.
case, the actual question was whether seeing Hulk Hogan naked was of any news value or not. And the jury ruled in favor of Hogan and awarded him a ton of money. He ended up getting 115 million in compensatory damages, 60 million in emotional distress, and 25 million in punitive damages. So in total is $200 million.
Wow.
For context, in the preceding years before this judgment, Gawker's parent company earned revenues in the 30 to $40 million range.
Right. So,
Total revenues, not
yeah,
profit, like
yeah.
just total revenues. Um, so they didn't have $200 million kind of sitting around. So Gawker obviously appealed the verdict and the judgment, and both of those were thrown out of court. Hogan would actually sue Gawker immediately after this again. Because what ended up happening was that as part of like the discovery efforts for this sex tape trial, there was
Hmm.
also recordings of him saying the N-word repeatedly and
Mm-hmm. I
like
remember that.
yeah, about like someone that his daughter was dating, and that ended up getting
Hmm.
leaked through the National Enquirer. But again, during the discovery phase of the original trial, it was found that Gawker had obtained the tapes and sold them or something to national. Like they were still involved in this in some way.
Hmm.
So long story short, as far as that part is concerned, that resulted in him getting fired from the WWE. It did what it did to his reputation, all the stuff that kind of comes along with that. Shortly after the judgment was affirmed, Gawker filed for bankruptcy, and so did Nick Denton, the founder. It was actually sold for pennies on the dollar to Univision because Gawker was part of Gawker Media, and they held Jezebel, and
Hmm.
they have a ton of different digital properties. Ultimately, the Gawker brand, through their bankruptcy proceedings, would settle with Hogan for $31 million on the original judgment. So, where does that leave us with Peter Thiel and the PayPal Mafia? He financed the whole thing. He spent $10 million of his own money just just to pay the lawyers to facilitate the bankruptcy of Gawker because they outed him 10 years earlier. He actually stated, this is a quote, that his financial support in this case is, quote, one of my greater philanthropic things that I've ever done, end quote. And
Amazing.
the general feedback on the outcome of this case is a bit split, with some saying, well, fuck Gawker, they were scumbags and what they were doing was shitty. And others are saying
Hmm.
it's kind of like a free speech. We've kind of debated this before between the two of us, that like I kind of tend to be more about like free speech than anything else. Um,
Well, I think it's freedom of speech, not freedom of consequence from consequences.
Totally. Well, also, like, freedom of speech doesn't also mean freedom to do anything, right? Like, you can't defame
Exactly.
people. You
Yeah.
can't publish like sexual content without consent. Like, like,
Yeah,
well, I
yeah,
guess you
yeah.
can.
You can, but then there's going to be consequences.
Right, right.
You can't claim like that is my free speech. No. Like that doesn't mean that you aren't liable for something because they shouldn't do that. Just consequences,
So,
I
what
guess.
are we? Are we pro Gawker going bankrupt?
Yeah, I think they were doing a bunch of shitty things.
They're kind of
And that was
scumbags.
it was a weird time in celebrity gossip. Like all those the internet was like new to that as a thing. And it's still obviously such like a huge thing. So,
You remember Perez Hilton?
yeah,
I mean, he was similar in this similar vein. Um,
absolutely.
but but I just love the idea of this guy just sitting there brooding for 10 years, waiting for the moment.
I know, I
Like,
love it. That's
um, but that's like a more serious story about that involves the PayPal Mafia and kind of the consequences of like kind of being in their orbit, or in a negative way. This one's kind of like a sillier, funnier one, and I'm going to end on this. So this one also reminded me of like the incredibly vast difference between people like us in the multi-billionaire class.
hmm
I wrote this down, that I'm going to think of this example the next time Taylor gets pissed about billionaires not using their money to buy school lunches for poor kids, because it's
Yes.
just like, it just shows like how different they are. So in 2022, Tesla shares were worth around $400 a piece, as we've discussed before, and everybody in the world knows Elon Musk was the founder, or not the founder, but he was basically the guy who got Tesla where it's at. Uh, so you have Tesla shares of $400 a piece. You have Elon Musk, who had already crested the $200 billion range. He'd become the richest man in the world at that point. Then you
hmm
have Bill Gates, who was formerly the richest man in the world, whose net worth in 2022 was 129 billion. So you have like a lot of money being kind of flung around. Bill
hmm
Gates obviously is very famously involved in climate change initiatives, and this is really interesting. It goes to like the psychology so much, because electric cars are like obviously not dependent on fossil fuels,
hmm
and they don't emit carbon emissions, and Tesla's the biggest manufacturer of them and kind of created the industry as a whole. And so you would think like in any other situation these two would be pretty friendly about things,
hmm
and you'd be wrong about that. So around 2022, in an interview, Bill Gates mentioned that he took a short position against
Oh
Tesla.
yeah, you mentioned this. Yes.
It A short position means borrowing shares that you then sell, anticipating the price to go down so you can buy them back and give the shares to the original owner and net the difference. So for example,
hmm
if I just borrowed $100 share off of you, I sold it, then the price of that share dropped to $80, I'd buy that share again, I give you your share back, then I pocket the $20. That's what it is.
Yeah. hmm
But these are billionaires, and they do things a little bit differently. So Gates actually ended up shorting 1.2 million shares of Tesla worth $500 million.
Wow.
He spent $500 million just to short Tesla, which is a really bad look, right? Because someone like Gates does this, like it makes everybody think that he knows something.
Mm-hmm.
People like this can move the stock individually, which is
Of course.
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this is where, again, I have a super hard time kind of understanding how billionaires think because uh, despite having taken a hugely disadvantaged position against Tesla, there's a series of text messages that were screenshotted and uploaded to Twitter by someone. Musk and Gates both say that they weren't the ones that did it, but essentially it amounts to Gates texting that he had just landed in Austin because he was going to be touring. So what happened was that his son is a huge fan of like SpaceX, and so he was going to tour their production facility. And then this it starts with I landed, then it's like a day later, and you see that the follow up to this meeting that they had in person was Musk messaging Gates saying, "Do you still have a $500 million short position against Tesla?" And then Gates replies, "Sorry to say I haven't closed it out. I would like to discuss philanthropy possibilities." Musk replies with, "Sorry, but I cannot take your philanthropy on climate change seriously when you have a massive short position against Tesla, the company doing the most to solve climate change." Walter Isaacson was in the middle of this because he's doing like pieces on both of them. And
Uh-huh.
so he is quoted as having so incredible. He asked, he asked Gates, he goes, "Why did you short Tesla?" And then Gates goes, "Because I thought that the EV supply would outweigh the demand." And then Isaacson asks him again, he's like, "Yeah, I get that. So why did you short Tesla?" He just
Mhm.
couldn't, he just couldn't understand. Like, yes, so I'm super into the climate, like protecting the climate, but I'm also doing this thing. And the end of it was
Right. But I'm
Isaacson's
gonna do it in
perspective.
like my way and I'm gonna make money also.
And yeah, that's what he was like, dude,
Right.
he's not thinking about fucking climate change. He's about $100 million he's gonna make when his short
Exactly.
position pays. But I'm like, you're worth 129 billion. Do you really need to make 100? Like, I still don't understand this. And then there's another comment that he published, Isaacson would say around Musk, saying that he'd really hope that Gates wouldn't be an asshole and was disappointed and that he thinks he's like a phony about all his climate change initiatives because of how he kind of positioned his short against Tesla. And I think I mean it's funny because it's so petty because on the one hand you have Elon who's there or Elon and Tesla are doing fine despite the short position. And you have Bill Gates and it's like, dude, people are like constantly criticizing your intentions and like saying all this negative shit about your philanthropic efforts and like you do that stuff like this. Like it's just like a really
Hmm.
simple but stupid example of like billionaire pissing matches, which I found really
Yes, that's
funny.
exactly what it is. Yeah.
So so that's it. I mean they basically, from what I understand, have no interaction socially whatsoever. and like
Yeah. I
and
mean,
like Musk never donated. There was one commentary from Isaacson about Musk talking to Gates and saying out of every dollar donated to like nonprofit or philanthropy, only 20 cents actually goes to the cause, which I don't know where you get that number, but I mean, that doesn't sound
I mean,
insane.
it it depends. There's a lot of like watchdogs for nonprofits, so a lot of them are really, really bad. Like the Susan G. Komen one, the one that does breast cancer that makes everything pink.
Was that
Like
like 4
three,
cents goes
yeah,
to the
it's like
cause?
4 cents to the dollar. It's so bad. Like there's some of them are so bad. So there are people who for to whatever end or check, but
Very shady. Very shady.
yeah.
Which again, I don't know what the hell Bill Gates does. I'm just like amazed at like he's so pro climate or anti climate change. And then he does that.
Mm-hmm.
And like Walter Isaacson story around this when he was talking to Bill Gates, he mentioned
Mm-hmm.
how Bill was just like perplexed that he doesn't understand why he would short the stock. He was like, I'm gonna make like $100 million. Like, why wouldn't I? He just never connected the dots, which further indicates, I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I did find it interesting that like there's so much chatter about him being full of shit about philanthropy. So I don't know where to put that, but yeah, that's it. That's my story.
Well,
That's kind of how I'm ending it.
I am. Googling Bill Gates. He has donated to other electric vehicle things. Maybe he just hates Elon Musk.
He also reached out to him to he goes,
Maybe after he met him, he was like, meh.
so so it was so what the chronology of events was that he went to Austin for his son to visit the SpaceX factory.
Hmm.
They did the tour, they did all of this. That's when he hit him up for money. And that's when Elon was like, "Hey, I'll donate, but I'm not gonna do some generic charity that's gonna like take 80 cents out of every dollar that's taken or given."
Hmm.
And what happened was Gates apparently said, "I have five funds I'm running right now of 100 million apiece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a prospectus on how every dollar is spent for these five funds."
Hmm.
And what happened was Elon messaged him and was like, "Are you shorting Tesla for $500 million?" He was like, "Yes."
Like someone told him after he had like talked to him about the thing, and he was like, fuck you.
Yeah, he's like, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
dude, I wish I had. Oh man, to do a $500 million fuck you to someone, just
Yeah.
for the sake of it. How nice would that be? Because he could actually lose all of it. Like he could, in theory, lose all of it, right? Like if he's totally
Yeah.
wrong and he sells the stock and the stock fucking doubles, which it actually did. So what Walter Isaacson said is that in total, Gates lost about $3 billion of his own money on shorting Tesla.
Wow.
Yeah. So, anyways,
Wild.
what did you learn googling Bill?
He invested in another like a small company called Mangrove Lithium for different batteries. And he owns a Porsche Taycan, which is apparently a Porsche electric car, not a Tesla.
He's a huge Porsche guy, from what I
Yeah.
understand. He and like a few other billionaires were the reason why this one Porsche called the 959 was legally allowed to be imported into the United States because he just wanted one to drive on the road, and he like spent God knows how many tens of millions of dollars to get that run through. They just do so many things. Like, the
Just
shit they
wild.
do is just incredible.
Wild. Like there's no barriers,
No
even though
barriers.
like I'll see something that's like a fine for something like littering or drinking on the street is just like it's just like a well, it can be like prohibitive to a poor person for a rich person. It's just like what it costs to do that. You know what I mean? Like if the cost of like parking your car in a place you're not supposed to park it is, $1,000 fine, a poor person will not do it, but a rich person will be like, oh, I'm gonna park here. It costs $1,000. You know?
It's worth my time to spend a
Yeah.
thousand dollars on this than to be 10 minutes late to my meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one story I remember of Larry Ellison, the founder of Oracle, about how he bought like some crazy jet. He bought like some MiG or something, like something that he probably shouldn't own. And he wanted to land it somewhere that he shouldn't have, that was illegal to land in. And it was like the fine was like $250,000. He's like, whatever, just fucking land the plane. Like he's like, I'll take the fine just so he can go. Like it's just like just
Yeah.
different magnitudes.
Yeah, exactly.
Which good for
Wild.
them. I mean, I would do it too.
I'm gonna I'm gonna name the highway outside of your house the Taylor Pinheiro Highway.
The, I prefer if you name it the Vengeance Highway, but that works too.
Cool. Well,
Anyways,
thank you.
that's my
Fun.
story. Yeah, I found it kind of interesting, fun. The Gawker thing was really interesting.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
What happened to Hulk?
I mean, did he spend all that money? Is that what happened?
From what I understand, his divorce from Linda was like stupid expensive. Also, he has like a complete useless, spoiled, bratty son who like he has to take
Right.
care of.
Yeah.
His daughter Brooke actually ended up getting married to like some professional NHL players. So, like I'm sure that like she's fine and not like a total brat, but like the son raised the way he was raised and having done the things that he's done, sounds like he just has to be supported by his dad forever.
Yeah. Like Chet Hanks, Tom Hanks' idiot son.
Does he do anything?
No, he like kind of raps sometimes, and it's like really weird and awkward, and he's terrible.
Have you heard any of them?
I feel like no, but I've seen like a couple of like the his like Instagram stories, and he talks in like a sometimes he talks in like a Jamaican accent for us. It's terrible.
You can't pass it off when your dad's Tom Hanks.
It's real bad.
Colin's great. I like Colin.
We do.
Yeah,
We
we're
do.
pro Colin, anti-Chet. Every family has a Chet.
That's true too.
Sweet. Do you have any listener mail for us?
I do not. Um, no, I don't. Not this week. Wait, I feel like someone. Oh, we sent out our newsletter, and that uh was fun. So thanks to anybody who wants to get that. It's like a recap of our episodes for the month. You can sign up on Substack, and the link is in our profile in our on our link tree.
Sign up, please. Again, we need, I'm living in my childhood room. We need the money.
You're visiting your parents for like 2 days. You're not living in your childhood room,
I'm alive in here,
and
aren't I?
but I see that you're traumatized by your weekend, so you can have it.
Yeah. Anyways, if anybody has any tips and advice for how to mentally recharge your batteries after spending a ton of family time, please write to us. Um,
DMTFLpod@gmail.com.
thank you, Taylor.
Thanks, Brian.
Um, that'll be it.
All right, cool.
Thanks. I'm
Bye.
gonna go cut off.